Hello and welcome to Lord Havoc's Marvel Champions Custom Content Creator Spotlight. Continuing Season 2. I have with me today Mr. JPaul. He's on the Discord, his name is JPaul, but he's given me permission to just call him Paul. Who is a big contributor to the promo space. What a quite popular thing on the community is creating promo cards of existing cards and like alt art and extended art and stuff like that. It's quite creative how they find this art and they put it together and stuff like that. But he's also made some custom content that I really want to talk about because it's an amazing project. I want to sort of like highlight it a bit. Mr. Paul, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
Excellent, awesome.
Uh,
Would you be so kind just to introduce yourself a bit?
sure. Um, I live in Canada, and I've been playing Marvel Champions since Galaxy's Most Wanted was released.
Cool.
I've been making promo cards since around mid 2023, and I've made a custom hero, and I've made a custom scenario Avengers JLA. That's sort
Awesome.
of the basics.
Yep. Great. Cool. And sort of what got you into Marvel Champions custom work? So you said you started playing the game. What made you decide to get into the custom stuff?
It's actually kind of an interesting story because I think for a long time I had the idea that custom content was sort of rough and ready, like not really something that was going to be at the level of the official content.
Hmm.
I was on the sort of the main champion server, and I saw somebody, people there talk. They don't talk about custom content a lot, but
Hmm.
the topic comes up every now and again. And I think somebody said, oh, the the custom content you can get is better than the official content.
Wow. Big
And
claim.
I was, I was kind of skeptical of that.
Yeah.
I didn't really, it didn't really sound right to me, but I thought, maybe this is something I should check out. I don't know. I didn't really expect to, go looking for custom content and, find all this amazing custom content that blew my mind or anything like that. I didn't really expect to find that. And, for the most part, I just sort of maybe dipped my toe into the waters a little bit. I found a hero, I printed it out, I tried it out. Maybe I didn't choose exactly the right thing. I didn't immediately get into custom content at that time. I just sort of went, eh, you know, sort of confirmation bias or something like that. Like,
Right.
this is what I define, not something that, you know, really excited me. It was, it did open my eyes that there was a community there, there were ways of doing this that actually looked like it had potential, but I didn't immediately say, this is what I really want to do and this is what I want to get into. Um, it
Gotcha.
was more of it was more of like, this is a really big server. There are tons and tons of people on it, and looking through various different channels, you could see that there was a lot of things halfway completed. I'm working on this. This is something I want to do or aspire to do, but maybe don't have the time to get around to it, or I did something and I didn't really finish it. Um, so I sort of walked away at that point. But then I guess I guess what it was is I played more Marvel Champions after that, and the more I played, the more I sort of got the sense that this is a great game,
Hmm.
but maybe that original discussion I had, maybe there was something to that. Maybe there's something still sort of being left on the table here.
Cool.
There's there's like, no, this is a good game, and I think FFG does a good job developing it, but there's also sort of I guess at this point I should say, before getting into Champions, I played a lot of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Awesome.
This this is so that's sort of I mean you can go all the way back. I started with Magic the Gathering, which probably is common with a lot of people who play card games like this. That's sort of the granddaddy of all these types of card games. But
Yep.
really at that point, at the point I got into Marvel Champions, I was very much like very deep into Arkham Horror, probably was my favorite game at that time. And
Mm.
then the pandemic hit, and I was playing a lot of Arkham Horror because you have spare time. It's a pandemic, you have all
Yeah.
this time, and I feel like I just I played myself out of that game a little bit because I just
Yeah.
played so much of it.
Right.
And you get to this point where you're sort of like, I'm looking for another game.
Mm.
Um, and I've been a Marvel fan since I was a kid. And when FFG first announced the game, I sort of, oh, this sounds like a game that I would be interested in. I had played Sentinels of the Multiverse before, which
Awesome.
was kind of a similar game, but
Yeah.
maybe it was just the IP didn't have the IP that grabbed me. Um, but this Marvel Champions coming out was sort of that was I heard a lot of negative things about it when it initially came out.
Really? Like
Maybe
what?
that, well, just like trying to think of I don't know. I think part of it was that I was used to playing campaign games with Arkham Horror. Like Arkham Horror
Yeah.
is built from the ground up to be a campaign game.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
I was
Yep.
really into campaign games at that point. And just the whole idea that out of the core box, there was no campaign support, but then they were going to add it later.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just give them, I'm not going to buy this game right away. Maybe I'll just give them a few releases, see how it goes.
Yeah. It was a bit
And
of a departure, wasn't it? Because the
yeah,
predecessors are of course Arkham and Lord of the Rings, and they both have campaigns built into the core, but they went a completely different way for this, and I think it was more to sort of make it a little bit easier to sort of introduce it to people. So you have like the sort of the mini sort of scenarios that you can sort of get used to the idea of a scenario, and then chain them together later on. I think was the initial plan.
yeah. So, but the idea was that, okay, so Rise of the Red Skull comes out,
Mm.
and the reaction is, oh yeah, it's a great box, but the campaign part feels tacked on. It doesn't feel like
Really?
it's this essential part of the box.
Did you think that as
You
well, or
know?
was that just something you heard?
Um, well, I mean, at that point, I hadn't really played it. I would say it is my opinion now that it does feel tacked on. It's
Wow.
not like Arkham Horror. The campaign play is very deep.
Yes.
It's like you have an experience point system. Every scenario you play, you're changing your deck up. Your deck grows as you move through the campaign. Marvel Champions to me has never really felt like a campaign game, but
Right. That's fair.
I'm actually okay with that. Like I think I've actually sort of outgrown the need to have everything be a campaign game. Like I'd rather appreciate Champions for
Exactly.
what it is
Yeah. As I mean,
than
Champions is a little bit more bite sized. I mean, you can take a scenario and still have a
yeah, yeah,
a good experience. But just one scenario should be enough, right?
yeah,
Whereas,
looking at Arkham Horror, like I basically almost never play Arkham Horror as a single scenario. Like
exactly
they're
right,
standalone.
because you're meant to go through the
You,
storyline.
you can play it that way, but
Yeah.
I think one of the things I do like about Champions is that it's like you can just sit down for half an hour and play a game, you know?
Mm. Mm.
And there's an immediacy to it that I don't think Arkham Horror does as well.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
I kind of actually like that about it. Anyways, so eventually it's the pandemic, and I actually traded for a good chunk of the early Marvel Champion stuff. I had some games I wasn't really playing, and I found a guy on Board Game Geek and just did a trade. I was like, sure, this is it's not really costing me anything. I'm just trading games that I'm not
Smart.
really playing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
my game group really get into.
It's great.
So I got the core set, I got all of the first wave and Green Goblin, and started playing it, and I was like, yeah, this is like it's a different thing than Arkham, but it's I like the difference. I like it's sort of the game that I wanted. Like I said, I've been a Marvel fan for a really long time,
Mm.
and so I got into it. But having played, I bought more content as it was released.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the first things I bought was um, Galaxy's Most Wanted, which is like, you go from,
Yeah.
um, you know, you, how, sort of how it is. I
Yeah.
mean,
Now, Galaxy's Most
uh,
Wanted to me is the perfect example of don't always have to listen to the fans. So sometimes you have to just sort of ignore them. If you've got a vision of your design space and you want to go down that path, then go for it. Galaxy's Most Wanted was the result of listening to people complaining that the rest of that the earlier stuff was too easy, and so
yeah,
okay, well now we're going to give you something that's not only much harder but kind of boring, in my opinion.
right.
Except for the Badoon scenario, that's actually pretty cool, but the rest of it's terrible.
I mean, the good news is like I like Rocket as a hero, so
Yeah.
that was, it's not like it's pure downside on that box, but
Yeah,
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 I
no,
mean,
there's stuff to love, but yeah, the campaign, no. Can we go back and touch
but
on something a little bit you touched on earlier? Or actually, you might be linked to it. I might have interrupted your thought process, but you said that you originally, when you first heard about customs, you're kind of like meh, which was great, and then you sort of played some more, and then you sort of went back sort of into it. Is that because you noticed that there was just some things lacking that you wanted to sort of fill the gaps with your own sort of custom work, your own ideas?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think that maybe it's just I saw that FFG. If you look again, I'll come back to Arkham Horror here. I think you look at Arkham Horror, there are a few designs in that game that sort of step outside of what the game is at a basic level
Mm.
and take it to the next level. The Blob that ate everything is probably one of the scenarios. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah, I love it.
Arkham Horror
Yeah,
or
I've got every single Arkham product, including all the promos from all the books that I've never read. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. The Blob, actually, yeah, I love the Blob. It's great.
yeah, I mean, they found a way of doing something, and they also did a similar concept with War of the Outer Gods.
War of the
But
Attic Gods.
basically, they found a way of doing something outside of just like this is the base sort of substrate of what the game is, and I liked that, and I liked the ingenuity of the design of that game,
Mm.
and I feel like they could do something like that with Marvel Champions,
Yeah,
and I think that's sort of what you look at it that way, but I don't think they have.
yeah.
Um, and I think you start to think about that, it sort of gets your mind working, and you think, hey, maybe there's something to this custom content.
Mm.
If FFG isn't interested in sort of taking this game to what you might view as the next logical step, then that sort of gets your mind just thinking about custom content and um, what can we do? And I don't think I really took custom content seriously until that point, until I realized, yeah, maybe I was wrong about this. Maybe, what's to stop us from, taking this game, which I think is a really, really good, really solid game, and then doing something else with it. Um,
With your mention of the Blob that ate everything, we're obviously leaning towards moving into your Avengers JLA campaign. Is that where you start? Did you start there, or did you do the promo stuff first and sort of move into that? Where was what was your first project?
the first project, the very first thing I did, I actually recently posted it, was just a promo. I did a Black Widow promo.
Right.
Um, and I got into promos specifically because I think I saw somebody post on the custom server. I saw somebody post just a picture of that they had made of their own promotional cards,
Mm.
and that just really intrigued me because I mean, part of the reason I like comics is really the art aspect of it.
Yeah.
Um, and that's actually another thing about Champions. I felt like a, a little bit was left on the table there. I think some of the cards have great art, but I think also some of the cards have, I don't
Atrocious
know,
art.
less great art, I guess. Um,
Let's. You're trying to be diplomatic about it, but let's face it. Some of the
yeah,
cards look like a dog's breakfast. They're just horrible.
sure. We'll go with that. And I
But
just felt
I've got
that,
your Black Widow promo up at the moment. This is the one with the Black and Widow, black on the top, Widow on the bottom. Hero card.
yeah,
Yep. It's
yeah,
absolutely awesome,
yeah.
dude. It's awesome.
Um, and that's I just Black Widow is probably my favorite hero
Cool.
to play in Champions. I don't think that's a controversial take.
No, that's
Um,
she's my second favorite.
yeah, I think a lot of people have her as one of their favorites. I
Yeah.
mean, there are some people who don't really appreciate the play style, but I think I've heard a lot of people say that it's a really great design. Um, so I just thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I make a promo for Black Widow? They came out with their official promos, but you look at them and it's the same art. Slightly larger card frame, slightly different. There are official promos of that stuff. I feel like FFG did promos a lot more. They spent a lot more time and energy on promos for some of their other games in the past.
Yeah.
Netrunner is a game I used to play as well, and they
Awesome.
had some pretty good promos for those.
Yeah.
So, but weirdly, even though there's tons of amazing Marvel art out there because of the comics, they haven't really pushed that in Champions. They've done some promos, but nothing really to the level of what they've done, I think, with other games.
Well, I think it's because they're limited in what art they're allowed to use.
Yeah, maybe
As
that's the case.
part of their agreement, their contract, they're limited to a certain time period, for example, and they're also limited to some artists are also not allowed to be used. That's what I've heard anyway.
Hmm. In any case, you know,
But we're not
so
limited as the custom community. We're not limited in that way, which I think is pretty amazing.
yeah,
So Black Widow
I
is your
mean,
first one, and it's awesome. It's absolutely magnificent. Do you come from like an art background? Do you have like a graphic design background?
not really. I mean, I took a few art courses in university, but nothing. I sort of self-taught, I would say. I just, I mean, I don't think it's really that difficult, but I guess it's just years and years of reading comic books and looking at comic art and
Well,
seeing what other people do as well to a certain extent. Like part
really,
of the reason,
I think you're talking it down a bit. This is absolutely magnificent. You didn't just do like the extended art promos that FFG did. You redesigned the card to fit the image that you were using. I mean that takes skill. That's and artistic flair. That's not just it's like I just knocked it out in 5 minutes. It's nothing. It's nothing.
well, it's nice of you to say that.
It's amazing stuff.
Uh,
Let's look at some of the other ones.
yeah,
What are some of your favorite ones?
one of the earlier ones I did that I really like is Mockingbird. That's under the core set section. Mockingbird Ally. That one,
Core set section. I'm lost now. Custom content, promos. Where am I looking?
just should be core set. It should be
Uh,
01 core set right at the top. And then Mockingbird should be close to the bottom. Yeah, 83 Mockingbird.
I'm embarrassing myself here. I'm actually not in the same folder that you're in. Oh, here we go. Sorry, my bad. And then Mockingbird. Scrolling down. This is this is embarrassing. Where can I not find it?
It's 83, card
83.
83.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, here she is. Yeah, got her. Oh, that's great. That's great.
I like this one because I think it works perfectly if you're playing against Green Goblin, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
just fits right in there, just the theme.
yeah. I actually used this exact same image for my Mockingbird Hero that I just recently did for one of her
Yeah,
cards as well. It's just
I
amazing.
like cards that have a lot of sort of dynamic
Yep.
poses going on, or there's a lot of sort of kinetic energy there or something. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah. So you
A
favor.
lot of
So when you're sourcing that, you favor panels over covers.
I use a lot of covers because um, the reason I use a lot of covers is because it's actually a pretty straightforward reason,
Yeah.
is because you need the space for the title bar at the top there, and
Yes.
covers very frequently have their own title bar on the cover at the
Exactly.
top, so they have to leave space for that. So it just makes it so much. I mean, I know there are AI tools you can use now that will extend the art at the top. There's other little tricks I've used in the on certain cards um, to get the extended art without using AI.
Mm.
But it just makes it easier if the art is already like that. Yeah, this piece of art particularly was is an internal piece of art,
Yep.
which often makes it more difficult to use that because you have to like clean it up or you have to. But this one actually just worked pretty well by itself. It just looks like she's moving through the card. That's why I like it so much.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Great. Excellent. Excellent placement of that. I'm a huge fan. Regular listeners will know that I'm a huge fan when the art breaks the border in some way. So
yeah.
you got an excellent placement of the border break here. So like a hair and it looks really dynamic and yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Cool. Any other ones you want to highlight from your promo sections?
I mean, I really like the stuff I did with Hulk. I did a whole thing with Hulk where, I mean, technically it's not just promos, it's also custom content because I tweaked the identity card in a few
Oh,
ways.
okay, cool.
Uh, the only I like it because the only thing I changed was the identity card. This is my fix to Hulk. I know everyone has their own fix to Hulk, basically, but this was sort of my fix, the minimalist fix to Hulk, and I just changed four things on his identity card, and I feel like it makes him much more playable while still mostly remaining true to the original version of what, the FFG version of what he was meant to be. Um,
What did you
and then I
change?
did, so the four changes are
It looks
on
this.
the
Looks the
alter
same.
ego side.
Yeah.
I added, so when you use Bruce Banner's ability, if you have um, Banner's Laboratory in play, you get to draw an extra card. So
Oh,
draw two, discard one.
well then I'm looking at the wrong card
Uh,
then because the card
and,
I'm looking at looks
and he
identical.
has +1 hand size.
Where are
And then
you?
on the Hulk side, if you have Banner's Laboratory in play on the Hulk side, you don't have to discard your hand at the end of the player phase.
Ah,
And
cool.
if he takes damage from an attack the first time each phase he takes damage from an attack, you get to draw a card.
Yep, found him. After Hulk takes
So
damage from
the
anything,
card
he's got to
draw
draw
goes a
a card.
long way to helping him. It doesn't completely take away the negative Hulk side of things, but it really creates a strong incentive to play Banner's Laboratory, which, if you've played regular version of Hulk,
Mm.
Banner's Laboratory, it's it's really the worst card in his deck because the entire deck is built around having pure physical resources. It's the
Mm.
one card in his deck that is not physical resources, and I'll, so many times you don't want to play it because the card does so little for you, and then but then it gets stuck in your hand as a non-physical resource because you're not playing it. So it's like it's kicking you while you're down, kind of.
Yeah.
Um, but this way, with my version, if you get Banner's Laboratory down, it's definitely a huge positive for you because you get rid of that big negative on his hero side, and you uh, get a bonus on the alter ego side.
I see you made some changes to She-Hulk as well. Is that before or after the change
Uh,
to her
those
stun thing?
those actually weren't my changes. I did that because it was a request from somebody who had they made their own tweaked version of She-Hulk. So those weren't actually my changes, but
You designed the cards for them.
Yeah, I did the promo. I did a full promo set for Hulk and full promo set for She-Hulk. Weirdly, Hulk and She-Hulk are actually not two of my favorite Marvel characters, but I don't know. They seemed part of doing promos is you'll realize that the popular heroes, there's so much more art for them than there are
Yeah.
for any of the sort of even like a mid-tier hero. It's so much easier. Like finding art for Hulk is very easy. There's tons of Hulk art out there. Like if you wanted to do Spider-Man,
Mm.
there's tons of Spider-Man art. Although although I will say with Spider-Man, I had more trouble finding Peter Parker art than Spider-Man art. Finding Peter Parker art was much harder. I did do a Spider-Man promo,
Yeah.
Spider-Man hero promo, and doing the Peter Parker side, where specifically finding a picture of him, a good usable picture of Peter Parker in like a science laboratory setting,
Yeah.
was much harder than I anticipated that it would be.
Wow. So
Um,
you
I
went with
did
J
I
Scott
did
Campbell.
find I did find something, but it wouldn't have been, my first choice of what to use or anything. Um, but sometimes actually that's surprising. You would think that there's tons of, I guess for Spider-Man in particular, for Peter Parker Spider-Man, anyways, a lot of the Peter Parker art will be him being a photographer, not necessarily him being a scientist.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. But they chose on the official one, they chose to focus on Peter Parker as a scientist.
Yeah.
Um, and it's
Cool.
fine.
I love you, Maria Hill, as well. That's awesome. Yeah. You're obviously very good at the promo stuff. And so did you do the promo stuff for a while before you moved on to making your own custom content? When did you actually decide to start doing your own stuff, your own ideas?
I think I was doing the promo stuff, mostly, and I didn't really have aspirations beyond that very much. But then there's the inevitable thing of there's this huge community, and everyone here is focused. I think the vast majority of people in this community are really focused on making their own custom heroes and making their own custom scenarios. Like the promo stuff is there, but it's sort of, I feel like it's secondary. The real focus of the community is on creating true custom content. And so I kind of thought about that, and I was like, if I want to be more of a part of this community, you got to make at least, one thing that's actual custom content. So, um, so naturally you start thinking, well, if I had to make one hero, what hero would I make? If I'm making one custom hero,
Yeah.
what hero is that going to be?
Yeah.
Just like a one-off. I'm not going to do like, however, there are some people on here that have done like, I think like 20 heroes or something like that, or
Yeah. Yeah.
they've they s- they've done all of this custom content. Um, and I'm just like, if I did one, what would I do if I did one? And so I started thinking about that. And you look at all of the heroes that have been done, and you think, wow, basically everything has been done. Like
Yeah.
every major hero that you could ever think of is somebody has at least attempted to do it, even if they haven't, fully completed it. There's at least an attempt somewhere um, you know, to do something like that. And then the question becomes, well, if if you're doing a lesser known hero, can you source the art you need to
Yeah.
do, a 15 card or 16 pieces of art or so?
Yeah.
Can you get the art to do that? Uh, and then I think it was right around that time. I think it was when I was reading Jason Aaron's Avengers run.
Mm.
And it was right at the end of that run where um, the identity of Avenger Prime is revealed.
Right.
And I read that issue and I was like, this is it. This is this is the one hero I would do.
Cool.
It was just obvious to me immediately.
Right.
It's sort of like the basic idea behind Avenger Prime just immediately came to me because it
So
was
the
just
mechanic
pure.
came to you when you realized this is the one I'm going to do.
Yeah, yeah. It was like this is this is just um, this would obviously make a really interesting hero. Like the entire idea just came to me after reading that issue
That's awesome.
of, and I mean the basic concept is just you have a deck that has all of the Avenger minions, sorry, minions, all of the Avenger allies in it that have been printed,
Yep.
and that's those are your allies. You can't just include your entire thing is you got to go around the multiverse and find all of the Avengers and assemble the Avengers, and it's just like it practically the idea is very top down design, and it just basically writes itself at that point in my view. But um, so then you just build in the rest of his cards with some of the typical mystic kind of stuff, and you just make him so that he's built around those allies and can do different things with those allies. That was just the thought process on making him. And I think the initial version that I made was, well, the whole multiverse mechanic,
Yep.
which is his 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 cards get better the more allies he has, is sort of like that just dovetails into the way you're meant to play him, which is you play the allies off the top of his Avengers deck, and you get more in play, and then his spells get more powerful, and it's just it all sort of works together.
Yep. And did you have trouble finding the art for it?
Not really. It's a pretty long run. He doesn't show up a lot, but there was enough there that I could use that I could get what I needed. Um, really, when you look at it, there's multiples of a number of cards, so that cuts down the amount of art that you needed.
Hmm.
It worked out well enough.
I've got the insert for him up now. So you got the Avenger deck, and it says the Avenger deck should be begins the game with Avenger deck that must compose of one copy of each ally with the Avenger trait in the player's collection, but doesn't say if there's a minimum. So you can have as many as you need, as many as you want.
Yeah. Well, the way I viewed it, that is, if you're somebody who's playing custom content, chances are you own a lot of
Hmm.
content. I
Yeah.
guess is the way I was looking at it. Um, I worded it that way because I didn't want. I mean, the way I play is I just have a deck of all of the Avengers. So that's sort of the way I did all my play testing, as if you have every one of everyone in the deck. But I didn't want to completely shut people out if they didn't want to play the entire collection. So if you just have like, I mean, if you have a lower number, it makes it harder to make the here. It makes it harder to make him work because
Ah, so the lower number makes it harder, not the higher number. Because if you got like a deck of 40 Avenger allies, you're not going to see the one that you possibly need straight away, right? You see, I mean, who knows when you're going to get the one that you want? Like, if I specifically want Hawkeye, I'm going to be waiting on it.
yeah,
But that's not how
that's
it works.
true. But there is like you can automatically lose if you run out of Avengers in your Avenger deck. You can just auto lose. That's the thing. That's the thing. I
Gotcha.
mean, because the encounter set, um, there's a one of the cards in the encounter set will just like make you immediately lose, and it also mills off your Avenger deck. So,
Right. Okay. So, because Portal says you need to remove it from the game once it's.
but if you play with all of them, you're probably not too worried about that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something you
I
don't
guess.
want to just leave it in play, obviously, but it's not a big threat. Um,
Gotcha.
I don't know. I feel like you probably want at least 20 or so.
Yeah. At least 20. But minimum 20. Okay. Cool.
I
So,
mean, it's up to the person playing it, but that would be my suggestion.
yeah.
Anyways.
And so you said that I'm really fascinated in sort of the design aspect of it. So you thought, what's a character that I can do that hasn't been done before? You found your
Yes.
character, and then you said the idea for the mechanics just came to you as soon as you realized this is what I'm going to do. So, Avenger Prime, shtick in his comic is that he has to go and collect all the Avengers because he like cause the Avengers to not get formed, right, in his universe. So he has to go and collect the Avengers together to form a team so they can actually help avenge or defend the universe, right, or the multiverse, right? That's basically the story.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so your idea from that, so you're like, all right, so from that, you're like, okay, well, I'll just have a deck of Avengers that he's collected. So the deck is the Avengers that he's collected over time, and then they just come out and assist whenever necessary. And then once they're used, off they go. And then I just get another one, and so on and so forth. And then the cards will interact with that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean,
No, so
part of it is also part of it, I guess, is there is a little tiny bit of bottom up design in that it's nice that you have a way of like normally if you're putting a deck together, you're naturally going to gravitate towards there's sort of a certain class of allies like these are the good ones, and then there's a class of allies like these are the ones that you never play with, right?
hmm.
Like you don't have to min max every single deck you ever put together, but there definitely are allies who aren't great and allies who are really strong. This is sort of a way of inducing you to play with some of the cards that you don't really ever play with.
Hmm.
They're playing Avenger Prime. There are absolutely times when I've played some of the allies that don't they don't really see play out. Like you can try digging for just the best allies. That's an option,
Hmm.
but there's no guarantee that you're going to find the best allies because if you're playing with the full deck, who knows? You might not run into all of the two cost allies that people tend to play in all of their decks, right?
Yeah. How often do you
Uh,
see someone playing Captain America? So
right.
he's so expensive. So yeah, I get you. So I'm interested in the multiverse count. Several cards in Avenger Prime's deck refer to a multiverse count. This number is equal to the number of different card sets on Avenger characters the player controls. What does that mean?
That means that if you have like an ally from it basically brings the concept of, the set that the ally was released in as a counting mechanism to sort of scale up the power level of the hero. So really you want to have a diverse sort of group of allies from different sets.
Oh, okay. So you didn't go with the aspects. You went with the sets that they actually got printed in originally.
Yes. That's sort of being an implication of, this one came from a different multiverse or something like that, right? This
Yeah.
one's from a different place.
Right. That's cool. No one ever refers to the sets. That's just a concept that's never even popped into my head. I've never seen it anywhere. But this is, and how often in your playtest, and how often do you then get the multiples that you need? Like, I mean, for example, Assemble Avengers said that you get to heal one damage for each character if there was at least four. How often do you get four from different sets occur?
You get it a lot. You do
Cool.
get it a lot.
Well, so
Um,
it's really up to you and how you build the
it's
deck, right? I mean, you just
the way
need to make
I
sure.
play. It could just be the way I play. I play a very build up your board kind of style,
Yeah,
but um, it
it's
doesn't. I
awesome.
mean, it doesn't
Yeah,
always work out, but I find that you get it a lot if you focus on building.
yeah. Well, which Avengers you choose will obviously be important if once you know that, right? Because you could just game it. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to grab 20 Avengers and I'm going to make sure that there's no more than two of them from each set, and so then you're guaranteed to get a myriad of them, right? Have you had any sort of community feedback from him?
No, not really.
Okay.
I don't. Maybe he's just too out there of a concept for most people.
Um.
I play tested him a fair bit,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed playing him. I wouldn't say he's like the greatest hero ever created, but it's definitely fun to do some of the things you can do with him. Like you can pop. He has a card that lets you, just just put a ally in play from the top of your Avenger deck, so that's useful sometimes, and it can change the math on your multiverse count. So there's and again, you wind up playing with allies you maybe have never played with before ever.
Yeah.
Um,
And they're free, right? They're free of cost because it just says play, so that means you just put it into
yeah,
play. I'm putting this guy on my queue. I'm gonna give this guy a go. I think he sounds really cool. It's adds a whole new dimension to deck building. And for me, you may not know me that well, but for me, that's a great honor because I hate Loki as a character. I just refuse to play Loki. So I'm going to do it. I'm chucking him in my queue for sure. Awesome. All right. Well, I think this is. We need to move on to just the centerpiece of your collection, in my opinion, is Avengers JLA. I've got it up now. This is just a massive undertaking. So going back to what we were saying before about the blob that ate everything, right? So it's a Arkham Horror scenario that is designed to be used by multiple groups of players. So it's not just the standard 4 players. You could have, I mean, it's up to like 20 or 30 players, right? It's like it's multiple groups and they also have to sort of collaborate and
well,
sort of what influences one influences the other, right? Is that correct?
the maximum is meant to be 8 players. You can go to 2 groups, maximum 4 per group. So
Oh,
there
what
are
am I
two
thinking
different
of
ways.
then? What's the one where they did
There are
they
two.
did it one of the cons where it had like 30 players in it? What am I thinking of?
I think so. Yeah, I mean the blob that ate everything is like that.
Oh.
This is not quite like that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This
Yeah,
is
yeah. So the blob is like 30 players, but yours is two groups of 4. Okay,
yeah,
cool. Awesome. Sweet. Yeah.
yeah. So with this, you can play it in 2 different ways. The first way is you just play it as a standard scenario,
Yeah.
with one group, and then you're just playing it the way you would any normal scenario.
Yeah.
The other way you can play it is you can play it essentially as a competitive game where you have uh, you have 2 groups playing simultaneously, and they're essentially racing each other. Is the way it functionally works out.
Mm.
Um, and there is some interaction between two. So basically, the concept of I should start at the beginning. The concept of the scenario is it it's a design completely built around the Avengers JLA miniseries from the mid 2000s,
Yeah.
and
George Perez. Awesome.
it's a 4 issue limited series. And the scenario I created here adapts the first 2 issues of that series.
Cool.
And the basic storyline is that the Marvel universe and the DC universe are being sort of forced to merge together, and there's crossover between the 2 universes, and you wind up with the Avengers fighting the JLA. It's a very very common type of heroes fighting heroes
Yeah.
story where you have this competition between the 2 universes, and they're sort of being manipulated. And what they have to do is there's a collection of 12 relics,
Mm.
6 from each universe, and they're competing to find these relics before the other group does. So that's exactly what happens in the scenario when you play it in dual group mode, where you have one group playing the Avengers and the other group playing the Justice League, and the first group to get um, up to 7 of the relics is the group that wins,
Okay.
right? So
You don't need
the
all.
whole
You don't need
idea,
all 12. You just need 7.
right? Because once you have 7, the most the other side can get is 5, right?
Yeah. That's perfect. Yep. Excellent.
So I mean, there, it once one side gets 7, there's who won basically.
Yeah.
I
There's no
mean,
point.
there's no point,
You can't. You don't have the
right? There's no
concept of
point.
stealing a relic from the other team. It's just once you've got it, you got it. So you're good.
Yes, that's. I mean, I probably could have done something like that. I didn't really think of it. There is theme to that in the comic where, but the way the comic works is that once one team gets them,
They teleport
they
away.
are sort of, yeah, they're spirited away by the
Yep.
The people, the Grandmaster and Metron, who are running the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how it works. Um,
Cool.
if you played in solo mode, it works the same kind of way. You just have to get 7 and then you win. And
Does it work well as solo? Do you think is it it's scaled so you can go anywhere from solo to a group of 4 versus the JLA, and then straight up to the JLA versus the Avengers.
I think it works. I did the majority of my testing in solo mode.
Wow,
Um,
that's
I like it a lot
amazing.
as a
Yeah.
part of it is like this is where I come back to the Arkham horror, the sort of the Arkham horror angle.
Mm.
One of the big aspects that I built this around was you have a limited amount of time.
Right.
That's one thing. That's one thing that I really liked about Arkham Horror is that when you're playing it, you have this doom count, which is, you have a certain amount of time, although it's variable because you could hit some encounter card that reduces the amount of time you have. And
Mm.
there's a lot of fantastic tension that's put into the game by having that type of design.
Yep.
So in this scenario, I've done something similar where you have a finite amount of time. If you're playing it, I mean, if you're playing head to head, you know you have a finite amount of time because you know that your opponent is trying to get all of the relics before you get them. So there's that pressure there. But in solo mode, in order to create that similar kind of pressure, I have there's like a hard out where you have a certain number of turns that you know, that you can use to get these relics. If you don't get them within a certain number of turns, then you're going to lose because the other side is constantly taking the relics away from you, right?
Yep. Well, stopping you from
And
getting.
it's also different from most scenarios in that uh, defeating the villain is not really the main goal.
Mm.
It's scoring relics,
Yep.
which is, and the relics are effectively side schemes. So it's like your goal really is not to beat up the villain. Your goal is to, score these side schemes and get up to 7 of them while still not dying to the villains. And the villains also sort of block you um, from being able to get the relics. So there's a mechanism where if if a villain is healthy, they have two sides to them. If the villain is healthy, the villain has a card that blocks off one of the relics so that you can't get at it.
Right.
But if you beat them up, they flip over to a wounded side, and then suddenly their card that's blocking you from getting at the relic is gone, and then you can potentially get that and score it, right?
And the relics are the ones that were actually in the comic itself, or did you have to go grab some different ones?
They're all the art I used. I used other art,
Yeah.
but all of them, the 12 are all the relics from that are mentioned in the comic.
Awesome.
6 from each universe.
Yeah. Yep. I got the. I was showing the relics while you were talking about that stuff. So it's So have you actually played like a full 8 player game? How long did it take?
I have not.
Oh,
I have not been able to do that, unfortunately.
you don't have the
So yeah,
patience.
that's all. It's just to a certain extent, it's all theoretical. I've done a 2v2. What I found with the head-to-head, I mean, part of what I did was I did reskins of some existing heroes as DC heroes. The reason for that is that if you do head-to-head, obviously, um, the game can become fairly unbalanced if you're taking, one type of hero against another type of hero. Like protection tends not to really do well on this, just because there's so much pressure on you to thwart and deal damage to the villains. You need to do both of those, and you need to take out minions. I find protection. I'm not saying you couldn't make a really good protection deck at doing that. Like if you're playing the right hero, you undoubtedly could. But just in general, protection and what it focuses on tends not to be great at that. Um,
Okay. So what? So isn't it two teams simultaneously racing for the relics? Are you saying they actually get to fight at some point? If I was playing the JLA, would I actually go up against you in an actual combat?
no, no.
Okay.
It's just a race. It's just like each group has their own 12. Each group has their own setup. They have their own 12, size schemes. I call them heroic schemes.
Yep.
Um, and then when one group scores one of those schemes, it gets removed from the board on the other group, right? So
Okay.
it's
So
taken off the board on the other group.
right,
Um,
and added
part
to
of part of it is
that group's victory display, essentially, right?
yeah.
Yep. Okay. And so part of the okay, so if
Part of me,
the four that's playing the Avengers, their villains are the JLA, but not the JLA
yes,
players. It's the JLA minions that are in the encounter deck.
yeah, yeah. It's the villain. They have their own villains.
Yeah.
Each side has their own villains that they're dealing with.
Wow. I want to play it.
It is it is a pretty out there concept. I
Yeah.
will admit. Um, I
Cool.
think I enjoy playing it because there are a lot of I like games that have lots of sort of crunchy decisions. I find one of the issues with Marvel Champions in some villains, it's like the answer to the question of do I build or do I put out fires is almost always you should build. You should always just be building into your final form where then you can just crush the villain, right?
Yeah. Right.
Whereas I like this design because I want to put pressure on the player to sort of have to make those hard, crunchy decisions of do I do I keep building my board so I get to the point where I'm basically, the best version of what this hero can ever possibly be, or do I go over here and grab this relic? Because if you look at the relics, you see that usually you're getting something out of the relic. Like when you score it, there's a when defeated ability that gives you a little bit of a bonus.
Hmm. Yep.
So there's, sometimes there's little combos you can set up depending on what it does. Um, or it can help you out in certain situations. So I like games where there's multiple options. There's not just one path that you might take to accomplishing what you need to accomplish. And I feel like with this, you always have to be asking yourself, how much time do I have left? Do I grab a relic now while it's undefended, or do I focus on beating up the villain? Like what is the best path forward to beating this scenario? And I like stuff where that's sort of a question mark all of the time, where you have to be constantly thinking about what is the thing I do next here. Whereas I find in a lot of champion scenarios, I find it's like, um, you know, it's like keep the threat off the main agenda, beat up the villain. Like that's
Yeah.
really all you're doing.
Yeah.
And stay alive. I guess, like those are the three things you're doing. And here it just feels like there's more things going on because you want to score the relics. You also want to beat up the villains, though, specific villains, so that beating them up and flipping them to their wounded side lets you gain access to more of the relics. But you also need to keep threat off the main agenda. But if the main agenda advances, there's a punishment, but it's not a really severe punishment. It's just an acceleration of the villains taking more relics away from you. So you can sort of balance that. What is the right thing to do? Sometimes the right thing to do might be to just let the main agenda advance because it's not the end of the world, or you feel like you have the the ability to still win even if they advance their agenda because it's just speeding them up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a big
You
fan
know
of
what I mean?
the main scheme that just resets and just it makes things a little bit
Yeah.
harder and then just
There's
resets. Yeah, I love that. They're cool. And when you say defend the relics, you mean by the heroic attachment cards? So
yeah.
each hero has their
Yes.
attachment. That means they're specifically guarding that relic, and so you have to sort of defeat
Yeah.
them to get
Each
to it.
villain,
Yeah,
each villain has their own attachment where that was necessary. I initially I had those coming out of the encounter deck. But what I found was that the early versions of this scenario, it was just so easy for a player with a lot of thwart to just score a bunch of the relics. Just like you would just focus on steamrolling just grabbing all the relics really quickly
yeah,
and just sort of stalling the villains or ignoring them entirely if you have the right tools for that. Um, so with the cards protecting them right away, I made it so that I think it'll be a little bit, it'd be very difficult to just win quickly by scoring agendas. You sort of have to mix up, um, you know, attacking the villains and taking out. You don't necessarily have to beat all of the villains, but you're probably gonna have to beat at least a few of them. Um,
yeah.
I like that. I like that balance of, timing things very carefully and
I love it. Yep.
figuring out what order you want to do things in.
I would love to play an 8-player game with this. Yeah, see if I can pull that off. It'd be in TTS though, because I'm not playing card table. That's where you do like the majority of the testing and stuff like card table.
No, I do it with paper mostly.
Oh
I
right,
print
okay.
stuff out.
So you print stuff out and play test it live. That's great.
Yes.
Wow, that's very cool. Have you got any? Well, I think it's amazing. Just finishing up on Avenger Prime. It's just this is the sort of project that I have to stop myself from doing on a number of occasions. I like to go for like the grand experience type thing, and I constantly have to like rein myself in. And so I'm just so jealous of how cool this is. I think it's amazing. Maybe after I finished my Hydra campaign, I might jump into something as huge. I've currently thrown around ideas for a PvP mode, so I might reach out to you when I'm back on that. See if you got any ideas. You seem to sort of have a sort of a bit of a mind for that sort of stuff. So
Yeah, sure.
that'd be cool. All right, have you got any ideas for any future stuff? Is there any? What are your future plans? Anything else coming out?
I do have a follow-up. Well, okay. So, wh- I mean, Avengers GLA is so huge.
Yeah.
It didn't, but it only adapts the first two issues of the series. So
So you want to do the other four?
I wasn't going to do initially. I was not
You
going to do.
madman. Are they going to be as big as this project? Like the other four issues? The other two? Oh.
I actually just counted it. I think it's like I pretty much have it done. I mean, I think it's like about 76 cards or so.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Uh,
That's still a lot.
it's very different. It's very different from the first scenario, but it doesn't it adapts the finale,
You're right.
the fourth issue. The third issue is just kind of like a bunch of it's like almost like a filler issue.
Yeah.
The fourth it, the fourth issue is the finale, and it's sort of like the assault on the final villain type scenario.
You're right.
And so I have that. I've actually had it mostly done for quite a while, but I've just been playtesting it a lot, and there are issues with it. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's it's not really as out of the box as the first scenario. It's more of a traditional scenario, but it does do some different things. Um,
Cool. I'm all for it. Are you gonna? Can you spoil some of it, or you want to wait until you actually publish it? What
um,
does it do differently?
the way I like to, I wrote down a few things. I wrote down a few things.
Cool.
This is what I wrote about these two scenarios. The first scenario is like progressive rock and roll. It's like prog rock,
Right.
and the second scenario is like punk rock.
Right. I love it. You music
So the
fans out
second
there, what does
scenario,
that mean? Translate that for me. Leave a comment.
the
What
first
does it
scenario,
mean?
the first scenario is just like this. Um, it's like sort of all over the place. You want to be doing everything all at once. It's like it's just so, um, you know, you want to be doing a bunch of different kinds of things, and there's tons of cards in play, and there's a lot going on. And this scenario here is just like you just got to punch stuff in the face because that's like that's like what if you read the final issue of that series, that's just what it is like it's just heroes and villains hitting each other.
Yeah.
It's like it's you know what you're getting from
Yeah.
that. It's like watching that end scene of Avengers Endgame is basically what it is, where you just have this chaos and there's heroes and villains and they're just like fighting each other. And
I gotcha. Great stuff. Awesome. All right, let's move into the sort of the community space. Is there any creators or creations that have inspired anything that you do or anything that you want to do?
yes, I would say that I didn't realize it at the time, but when I first started doing promos, that picture that I saw of somebody who had printed out their card, who had printed out their own cards, that sort of inspired me to get into promos. All of the art from that cards was done by Blue HG,
Cool.
and I didn't realize it at the time. So
Hmm.
really, a lot. I would say my style really is just heavily cribbed from what Blue HG did. Um,
Awesome.
and another one is McBob. I don't know how you pronounce McBobber,
Yep. McBubba. Yep.
I guess. His Power Girl. I did a small series of
Yeah, I
promos
saw
that
that. That was
were
awesome. I love Power Girl.
yeah that were they were Power Girl promos.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun playing Power Girl, so
Yeah, she's
I
awesome.
decided to do a bunch of promos for that.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Cool. Um, is there any socials or anything like that that you want to plug?
No, not really.
No. Okay.
I don't really promote my stuff all that much. I mean, maybe I'm just selfish, I guess. I make all my stuff for myself. I make all my stuff because it's what I want to play, right? It's like this is the scenario that I made is something I really wanted to play. I was like, I have this idea in my mind and I really want to play it.
That's so selfish. What's wrong with
Like
that? That's fine.
it would be wrong not to. It would be wrong not to share it in some way, shape, or form with other people,
Yeah.
right?
So you have shared them on. I mean, you've got your own. You made your brand new creator space and the creator HQ, and you got your link to this
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, what more can you expect? I mean, I made a Nightmare on Elm Street scenario. No one's going to play that. I made it for myself, and I don't care. I love it.
Right.
So no, that's fine. But I'm definitely gonna check it out. I've always been intrigued ever since I saw your just insanely awesome JLA Avengers thing. I was like, oh my god, how could you possibly do this? At first, I thought it was a PvP thing, and then I saw that it was like a classic sort of Arkham Horror type co-op type thing. And I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Final thoughts. Was there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to bring up?
I don't I don't think so. I think that's we went very into depth.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this with me. It was great to get to know you and sort of go in depth a little bit more on your work and what you do and why you do it. It's really, really cool. I'll have a link to JPaul's stuff in the description, of course, for it. And yeah, reach out. There'll be a link to the Discord as well. If you have an idea, maybe it's not as epic as Avengers JLA, but if you do, I want to see it. But if you got an idea and you want to sort of test the waters and stuff, join the community. There'll be a link to join the Discord and get started. There's a whole bunch of tools, tutorials, and the creators themselves that are there to sort of help you out. So give it a go. It's there for you, and you'll meet people like Paul. So again, thank you very much for joining me for this. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
no worries at all. I look forward to seeing the continuation of the Avengers GLA thing. That was my chair. I need to point out that was my chair, not me. If you heard that was, yeah. Again, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. To you listening at home, as always, the most important thing is please remember to tell the people that you love them as often as you can. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.